Have you ever felt like you're just hitting a wall with a new idea? I mean, you read it, you listen to the explanation, but it just doesn't click. It happens to all of us, right? But what if there was a specific, systematic way to break right through that wall? Well, today, that's what we're digging into. A really powerful educational strategy called remedial teaching.
So, you're stuck. What now? Do you just start the whole chapter over from the beginning? Or worse, do you just give up? The answer, thankfully, is neither. For both teachers and students, this moment is actually a huge opportunity, and what you do next makes all the difference.
So, the very first thing we have to do is change how we think about this wall. It is not a sign of failure, not at all. In the world of education, this is called a learning gap, and that's a key phrase. It means there's a specific, identifiable, and most importantly, a totally fixable hole in someone's understanding.
And let's be clear, this happens to everyone. This isn't just about students who are struggling across the board. You could have a star student who aces calculus but gets completely tangled up on one specific type of problem. See, the issue isn't the student's overall talent, it's about finding that one single gap.
Okay, so how do we fix it? Well, here's a great way to think about it. The best teachers approach a learning gap not like a judge, but like a doctor. The goal isn't to figure out who's to blame, it's to diagnose the problem and prescribe the right treatment.
And just look at how perfectly this analogy plays out. A doctor has a patient who is sick. A teacher has a student with a learning gap. The doctor runs a blood test to figure out what's wrong. The teacher uses a diagnostic test. And then the doctor prescribes medicine, while the teacher provides targeted remedial teaching. It's the same logical process.
So what exactly is remedial teaching? Well, here's the formal definition. It's a systematic process. That means it's not guesswork. It's a structured way to find a specific difficulty that you've already identified and then work to remove it.
Now this, right here, is the most important takeaway. If a student didn't understand a lecture the first time, giving them the exact same lecture again, maybe just a little louder, probably isn't going to work. Remedial teaching is not about repetition. It is about changing your strategy and coming at the problem from a totally different angle.
So how does this actually work in a classroom? It's not just a vague idea. There's a really clear 5-step cycle that is the backbone of all effective remedial teaching. You can think of it as the official treatment plan for learning.
This cycle is everything. Okay, so it starts with step 1, normal teaching. Then, step 2, you do an evaluation, like a quiz, and it shows there's a problem. Now for the magic part, step 3, diagnosis. You don't just reteach the whole thing, you use a special diagnostic test to find the exact issue. Maybe the student gets addition but not subtraction with borrowing. That's the gap. Then comes step 4, the targeted remedial teaching. And finally, step 5, you check again to make sure the fix actually worked.
I really can't stress this enough. That diagnostic test is the most critical piece of the whole puzzle. Without it, you're just guessing. A good diagnostic tool takes a vague problem like they don't get it and turns it into a specific, solvable problem like they're struggling to carry the 1 in multiplication. Now that's something you can fix. All right, so you've run the tests, you have a clear diagnosis, now what? What's the actual medicine? What does it really mean to teach differently? This is where a great teacher's toolkit really comes into play.
Let's go right back to our doctor analogy. If the diagnostic test was the blood work, what's in the pharmacy? Well, a teacher has a whole shelf full of different strategies they can use, and they'll pick the right one for the student and the specific problem.
And here are just a few of them. For a really complex gap, a teacher might develop a full-on Individualized Educational Program, or an IEP. If it's more of a confidence issue, sometimes peer support, the classic buddy system, works wonders. For a core skill, you might just need some good old-fashioned drill and practice to build that muscle memory. If the student just isn't motivated, a reward scheme might be the little nudge they need. And my favorite, for those really abstract ideas, you can use a multisensory approach, bringing in videos, physical models, things that can touch to make it real.
There's this huge myth that remedial teaching is only for slow learners or kids who are failing. That is completely wrong. It's for any student who has a specific gap. Your top-of-the-class student might need remedial help with one tricky chemistry formula. It's all about precision, not about putting labels on people.
Okay, for our last section, let's just zoom out for a second. Because this whole process, it's about so much more than just fixing a bad test score. It's really about a deeper, more supportive philosophy of how we learn. It's also super important to understand what this isn't.
People sometimes get remedial teaching mixed up with enrichment programs, but they are polar opposites. Remedial teaching is all about closing a gap to bring a student up to speed. Enrichment is for gifted learners who are already ahead and need an extra challenge. Both are valuable, but they do very different jobs.
And you know, none of this works without the right attitude from the teacher. That is absolutely non-negotiable. Patience, sympathy, positivity, these are key. The second a child gets labeled as dull or slow, you've lost. The whole point is to be a supportive ally, working together to solve a puzzle.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway. This is not just about cramming for the next exam. It's about the bigger picture, the development of the learner. It teaches them that it's okay to get stuck, that problems can be broken down and solved, and it builds real confidence. So it kind of leaves us with a question, right? If we can pinpoint and fix these little learning gaps, what other walls in our own lives could we break through if we just had the right diagnosis and a willingness to try a different approach?